Hey, everybody. It is a little overcast, but it is still a beautiful plus 23 degrees Thursday afternoon. And you know what that means, baby. That's right. It is episode number 95 of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. It is still me, Allister Carrington, your trusted real estate agent. It is still your trusted mortgage broker, Geoff Lee, alongside me. Geoff, buddy, how are you, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's already a Thursday. Long days, short nights. You couldn't ask for great weather. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, man, I know. I actually just came in from a walk not too long ago. That's what I did for my lunch break.
Yeah.
Man, it was fantastic outside. Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is beautiful out there. 100%.
Sunday's supposed to be plus 27, Geoff. Plus 27 Sunday, apparently.
I'm going to be up in Blackcomb, so that's going to be perfect.
What are you doing up there?
Spring skiing.
Look at you. What? So you ski on dirt?
I don't know. I have two passes that I got to burn and wait, just bring some bevies up there and work on my suntan. I have no idea yet.
Look at you, man. That sounds like fun, though.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Good for you. Good for you. I got nothing planned but working and spending time with the family. So that's it. That's all I got. It's still good, though. Still good.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well, let's get in today's pod. I know we got a bit to talk about, so we will start, as always, with the hottest segment in podcast, and that is...
Did you know?
That's right, baby. Did you know? All right. Here's one that every homeowner, buyer, seller, and frankly, every realtor needs to hear this one. So, recently, a couple in Quebec bought what most people would call their dream property. It was a lakefront, premium location, just under $1.6 million. So big purchase, big moment, the kind of home you picture making memories in. Then, after closing, they learned something nobody told them up front. 4 years earlier, that home was the site of a violent home invasion. So a man broke into the property. He attacked the homeowner and her adult daughter, and in self-defense, the homeowner stabbed the intruder. So he fled, he took off, collapsed outside near the front entrance, and then later died in hospital. So now, this is when it becomes a major real estate story. So when the sellers completed the PDS, the property disclosure statement, they answered no to the question asking whether there had been a violent death or suicide in the home. Their position was the man didn't technically die inside the home. He later died in the hospital, so they believed their answer was accurate. The buyers, of course, they have a completely different view. And their argument is simple. If we knew the full story, we either wouldn't have bought the home, or we certainly wouldn't have paid the price. And now they're suing for $425,000, roughly 25% of the purchase price, plus damages. So think about that. Not because of a leaking roof, not because of foundation cracks, not because of hidden mold, because of what they believe was a hidden history. And so this is where the case gets fascinating, because it lives in that gray area between technical disclosure and practical honesty, because the sellers reported, they disclosed that there had been an intrusion or altercation on the property, but didn't characterize it as a violent death in the home. So the court is now left to question what matters more, literal wording or the spirit of full disclosure. So what do you think, Geoff? Where do you side on that?
You know what? I think I side on the side of the buyer. Again, if I know of something that is going to not be very attractive in the purchase, I want to know about it. So someone dying outside on the front doorstep, yeah, I think that's a pretty big pretty big omission.
Yeah. And so I agree too. And one of the things that I will say, I mean, we can't say this is a sure case all the time, but more often than not, judges will also agree with the buyer over over the seller. And so this is one of the reasons why when I sit down and when I'm going through listing a client's home, it's so important that, as realtors, we take time to explain the property disclosure statement to our clients.
Yeah.
Now, we as realtors have to remember we can't fill that out. So, no way, shape, or form should we be ever implied as telling them what to answer on that property disclosure statement. But it is so important why we explain to our clients why it's so important for them to fill it out and be truthful, because it can come back and get you in the end. Where, like, and this couple is an example of $425,000, right? They're being sued for, and I believe this was 4 years. This has been 4 years after purchase.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that they're going back, right? And then there's the other side to it too, that we have to, because this is in Quebec, right? Here in British Columbia, we as realtors don't have to disclose if somebody has died in there.
Oh,
No, because it's been changed now. It used to be considered what was called a material latent defect. So that was something that you couldn't directly see in the property, but it was something that would affect you loving and liking that property. Now it's been switched over to a stigma. And a stigma is just something like, well, for some people, a death in the house could be an exciting thing and people would pay more for it. So it's just something that's affected the property, right?
mhm.
But if you are asked directly as a realtor, if the other realtor or if the buying clients that are there during the showing, if you are asked directly if somebody had died in the property, there's no dancing around it. There's no humming and hawing. We must disclose. If we know, we must disclose that there's been a death in it. And that's the same for the sellers themselves. So the only place that they have to say, right, has there been a death in there, is that within the PDS. And that's where I say, answer it honestly, right? Nothing good can come after it, can come out of lying. That's a big bill at $425,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially after 4 years from
Ex-
owning the home.
right. Exactly. Exactly. So that's the did you know? It's something that, it doesn't come it comes up often, but we don't talk often enough about it, if that makes any sense. It's one of the more important documents when you're buying and selling, right? Because of course when you're buying, you should go through the PDS, right? Of course you should be asking to see the PDS. And so it's one of the more important docs that kind of gets overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we talked about that before. It was the property disclosure statement that is, and as a homeowner, you have to be fully disclosing the details of that property to the buyer,
Yeah.
um, because it is a disclosure form. So if you're not being truthful within that disclosure, then it can come back to you. And it's not only just about someone dying on your front lawn. It could be a multiple of other kind of things going
Oh
on.
yeah, that thing is long. It's well, not, it's a long checklist. It's a thorough checklist, and like I say, and it's down to the point where if you don't know, and I always say this to my clients, if you don't know, it's okay to say you don't know if that's the truth.
Yeah.
There's yes, no, and I don't know. There's all three, right? So it's that easy to be honest through those things.
I believe in some provinces they don't even have a property disclosure form.
I've heard that.
I
I've
believe
heard that.
Alberta, and I could totally be wrong, but I don't
Is
believe
it?
they have a property disclosure form.
It could be, I should ask a friend of mine. She's a realtor out there. I should ask her about that because yeah, that's it's an important form. It's an
Yep.
important form. Yeah.
100%. Well, you
Yeah,
know
man.
what else is important? And we've talked about this actually last week and maybe the week prior is strata documents.
Yes,
So I
sir.
thought this was going to be a great thing to talk about because in our conversations I'm always surprised when I speak to realtors that don't review their strata documents, and they either pass that on to the borrower or they pass that on to the lawyer, or sometimes they even pass that on to the lender or the broker, and it's like, wow, like I always tell our realtor partners is like, look, we're responsible for the financing.
Mhm.
You're responsible for the property. You need to be going through these strata documents because if there are any red flags that are within it, that could impact financing. So I thought putting something together in regards to what to look for in strata documents, just in case you have a realtor that's saying, well, you know what, that's not really my responsibility. You're going to have to do that or pass the buck. But I think we both would agree, Alistair, is that if your realtor is not taking the time to review strata documents and passing that back onto you or delegating that on to a solicitor, probably not a realtor that you should be working with.
Yes, I agree with you 1 trillion%. We've said it before. That is a base function for a realtor, I believe. That's part of our job. I
Exactly.
mean, to slide it over to somebody else is nonsense. But go on.
Exactly. So I wanted to talk about some of the common red flags that impact financing, what buyers need to know before it's too late, similar to this property disclosure statement,
Yeah.
and understand that when we're talking about strata purchases, it's much different than when you're buying a detached home, because when you're buying a detached home, you're really buying the land and you're buying the residence. When you're buying within a strata, like be it a condo or somewhat even a townhouse, there is dozens to hundreds of owners that are within that strata, right? You have a strata council that are making decisions on your behalf. And yes, they do get voted on, but again, how many people within the strata actually vote? It's kind of like Canadian politics and politics as a whole, a
Right.
very small percentage.
Yeah.
Understand when you're in a strata, you're also sharing expenses. You're sharing quite often, well, all the time, utilities. You're sharing liabilities, and you're also sharing insurance policies that affect everyone within the strata insurance. So, the difference what lenders do when it comes from a detached home to a stratified unit is that if something goes wrong in this building, how are we exposed? Like, how are we protected? And lenders, it's always about lending on risk, right? So if something was to go sideways, how quickly can they sell it, or how quickly can they recoup their money that they have in that secured interest? And this is why that lenders, and here's the funny thing, all lenders don't ask for the same things, but lenders will typically ask for your last 6 months strata documents. They'll typically ask for your two most current years annual general meeting minutes. They will ask for your current financials, and they will ask for a current Form B, and they are now asking for the depreciation report, right?
Yep.
So these are the things that your realtor, when you are buying in a strata unit, these are the bare bones as far as what they should be looking at, right? And again, if you are not looking at it as a homeowner, if your realtor is not looking at it as a homeowner, you might basically be overlooking some huge red flags that are going to impact the financing, and as a result, basically your financing is not going to complete. So you being the expert, Alistair, I'm going to pass some of this stuff back onto you.
Okay.
One of the many things is called the CRF, which is called the Contingency
Reserve
Reserve
fund.
Fund. So I
Yes.
want you to comment a little bit as a realtor what homeowners need to be looking at, or what you're looking at as a realtor when you are looking at the reserve fund?
Well, so the reserve fund's super important, of course. So the reserve fund, I always tell my clients, it's your piggy bank, right? It's the condo's piggy bank, and it's or rainy day fund, so that when there is something that needs to be repaired that's major, let's just use the roof for example. What they'll normally do is they'll try to repair the roof using the funds available within that contingency fund, if there's enough, right?
Yeah.
Or there's another strategy. What they'll do is they'll use some of that contingency fund, right? And then they'll ask all of the owners of the unit then to chip in an extra $5,000, right? To fix the roof. So one of the things as a realtor you want to go through, of course, and is ask the question, right? Is ask the question, how much is in the contingency fund? This is when you're just talking to the realtor, by the way, not when you're reviewing them yourself, seeing the number yourself, right? So if they tell you, right, $400,000, you say, okay, what has been worked on recently? Because when you hear the word $400,000, what it used to say to some people is, oh my gosh, that's great. They got a big contingency fund.
Yeah.
So the property's wonderful. That's not always the case, because it could be that they're not fixing anything either. So you want to see a large number in there. Yes, that's very, very important. But then the second thing you want to see is what work has been done, right? And then what work is upcoming. And after all of that, what does that contingency fund look like?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, just to kind of sum it up and bring it kind of all in, like some of the red flags, folks, is when you're looking at the contingency fund, if that balance is also too low relative to the size of the building.
The building
Right?
itself, yeah. The number of units, yeah.
And I think you bring up a really good point is that a lot of times you'll take a look at a contingency fund, you'll see $1 million in there, but to your point, it's like how much work needs to be done? Like
Yeah.
what is the upcoming work? And this is also why the depreciation report is very, very valuable, right? So also keep in mind some of the red flags are the contributions are minimal or stagnant. Like again, how often are those condo fees raised? I'm amazed when I speak to some realtors down in old Vancouver
Oh,
where we have all these old strata buildings and the condo fees are like $200 and the building is like 35 years old. I may be exaggerating here a little bit, but it's just like, well, what's going on here? Like, why are the strata fees so low, but the repairs in this building and the assessments that are coming up and the future repairs are going to be so high,
those
right?
are the candidates for the $8,000 levies, Geoff, that we talk about strata owners being hit with this year.
Yeah. And you know what? Even some strata buildings, and this is also important for buyers to know, sometimes they don't raise the strata fees because they're waiting for a developer to come in and do a land assembly, or
Yes.
they're coming in for something not miraculous, but for a developer to come in and buy them out. So they know it's just a matter of time until that building is purchased and going to be used, for a commercial or updating the residential. But again, now you're in an environment, are developers looking at anything to buy in today's market,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So the other thing too that we have to look for when we're looking at the contingency reserve is the history of draining the fund for repairs. So like again, when there is a repair, like are they draining everything that's coming out of it and then coming back to you, the homeowner, to kind of replace it,
Yeah.
right? And again, if you don't have a long-term funding plan, just like in any household, that again is a huge, huge risk. And why this matters, guys, is that the buildings age, we all age, and as we get older, repairs are inevitable.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a strong reserve fund, and sometimes too, also, let's be honest, sometimes the building may not even be that old and
Yep.
still has huge issues.
100%. You don't, if
Right?
let's say if the developer is a poor developer, you're buying into a building, unfortunately, that might first see a buttload of issues in the first, couple of years of it.
Right. And a lot of times that what we see as far as what needs to be replaced are windows,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
There's roofs. They could be envelope issues, which
Yep.
envelope issues just means the exterior of the building, right?
Yeah.
It could
Balconies.
balconies,
Yeah.
plumbing, like parquet membranes. I know there's actually a new strata building that's having membrane issues because there's water
Water
integration that's
egress.
going on there, right?
Yeah.
Is it ingress? Did I say integration? But water ingress. And there's also elevators, right?
Yeah.
Those things are always breaking down. So if there's not enough money that's saved within the reserves, guess where they're coming back to? They're
Right.
coming back to you, the homeowner. And we talked about this ongoing is that the average stratified homeowner is going to get hit with a minimum of an $8,000 assessment
Yeah.
for repairs,
Yeah.
right?
And so, Jeff, just to cut in quickly, this is why, again, when you're going through and looking at condos, townhomes, anything stratified that has extra amenities, these are important things to go through with your realtor because all of these amenities are going to add up to costs in the
Yeah.
future, right? Just always remember all of these great bells and whistles that you've got around, they're going to have to get paid for at some point. So you've got to also take that into account.
Well, and the other thing that we also have to ask as when you're purchasing or as a realtor when they're representing the borrower to the purchase, it's special levies, right?
Yes.
So again, Alcer, explain to me what a special levy is, because again, we always use these words.
Yeah.
We always like shake our heads to say, yeah, I know, yeah, okay, okay. But again, a lot of us special levy, it sounds special, but
Yeah.
is it really?
It's
Like,
not really that special, let me tell you. Special levies are really they're repairs that are outside of the normal day-to-day cost of operating the building. And so it goes right back to your contingency fund.
mhm,
So if let's say they're going to repair the roof, let's say, and the roof is going to cost $80,000 to repair or $100,000
yeah,
to repair, let's say, and they only have $50,000 in the contingency fund to repair the roof, what they might do is say, okay, well, let's drain the contingency fund to zero, use $50,000 from there to pay for the roof, but oh no, now we're short $50,000. So now this is where they come to all of the units in the building and say, hey guys, we need you all to pitch in your share to repair this roof. And it's going to cost each one of you guys $5,000 and we need it in the next 3 months.
yeah. Well, and here's the other thing that a lot of people don't think about it. Think about it on the lending side of things, and this
Yeah.
is how lenders will look at it. So you
Yes.
now take a look at that $50,000 levy that's coming in. You take
Yeah.
a look that it is a shared it is a shared expense.
Yeah.
So a lender is now going to add that amount into your debt calculations.
Right.
And they're going to say, okay, well, do you have the ability to pay for that upcoming levy? Do you have, if you're going to borrow it, and we talk about debt servicing, how is that going to affect your debt servicing? So now, are you really able to afford the property that's having this special levy? And again, it may reduce your power, your borrowing power, or it may just basically, in some cases, just get declined because you as the buyer getting the financing, if you throw in that additional debt in order to take care of that levy, you're not able to do it with liquid cash. You need to borrow it, credit cards, lines of credit, and we talked about this before. Every 20 or every $14,000 of line of credit debt or credit card debt you have, what does that do to your purchase power? It affects it by a
Oh,
hundred thousand,
$100,000. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So again, special levies are another thing that, again, as a buyer, you need to know when you're purchasing a condo or a townhouse or any stratified unit.
Exactly. And just to tag on, sorry, Jeff, just to tag on to that again, when you're touring with your realtor, right, that should always been that conversation should have gone if the realtor had time to do a discovery call with the other realtor on that property beforehand. That question should have been asked by the realtor beforehand, are there any special levies coming up? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or and if you didn't get a chance to, and you guys are meeting at the building for the first time or whatever that looks like, that question, if the realtor is there, if the other realtor is there, should be posed by your realtor to that other realtor at that during that visit. And if not, that is when, and if there it can't happen those two times, that again is when your realtor should be saying, I am going to get the strata docs from that realtor and take a look and see if there's any levies coming up.
Yeah.
And that is where again I always roll it back to your realtor should always be reviewing those strata docs for you.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. How about active lawsuits or legal disputes?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That's a good one.
So again, some of the red flags here is that the strata is suing the developer for whatever reason.
Yeah.
The owners are suing the strata because they slipped and they broke their leg, or they were swinging on an amenity and it busted.
Yeah.
There's ongoing construction defect claims. Again, this can happen in new builds,
Yeah.
right? And there's also insurance related litigation that can happen. So again, if there are active lawsuits or legal disputes, this can also blow up your financing. And again, what we have to keep in mind is that everything that we're talking about, when we're talking about reserve funds, when we're talking about special levies that are current or that are upcoming, when we're talking about active lawsuits or legal disputes,
Yeah.
and again, none of these are necessarily deal breakers unless there is some really significant things that are going on there. But again, everything thus far that we're talking about will all be located in what, Allister?
You'll find that in the Form B
Right. Or they're going to be within
in
the
the strata docs.
document.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. They're all contained in the strata docs, but everything that Geoff is talking about, just so you guys know how easy it is, if there are spots on the Form B, and it will say, is there any active lawsuit going on? And it will say, yes, refer to this in the strata docs, and it tells you where to go, where to read it. And so again, sorry, there's just one summary page that as a realtor you look at to really know where to go and dig even deeper. Sorry, it drives me nuts.
Well, and for business owners, a form like I'm going to relate it into things that we may understand. A Form B is kind of like your notice of assessment. So it's a summary
Yeah.
of basically of your business or your personal income for the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So a Form B, like a property, is like a summary form of your AGMs, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alistair, your annual general meeting minutes. It's just a summary page as far as, okay, well, what is the contingency? What are the confirmation of the strata fees? Are there any kind of legal issues that are currently going on?
Yeah.
Like,
Where's the
like
parking stall number in the locker and the locker number? Yeah.
right. So it is basically almost like a cheat sheet in a
Yeah.
little bit of ways. Whereas if there is an issue, there'll be a box that's checked off, which then again, all right, now we got to dig a little bit deeper in here.
Right.
But again, if your realtor is just only looking at the Form B and not the
No.
remainder of the strat docs, that's what you also do not want.
You don't, yeah, exactly. You don't want that either. Yes. No, no, no. There are no Coles notes. It's just a guide. Your Form B is a guide.
So again, another red flag that can impact financing on the strata side when you're buying a townhouse, when you're buying a condo, are insurance issues.
Yes.
So remember, when you are buying a detached home like a house, you have to get your own insurance, right? When you are buying within a condo or within a stratified unit, that strata is getting insurance. You as a homeowner might get separate insurance for water or for content, but the whole building itself is insured through the strata, right?
Yeah.
So again, some of the red flags is when that insurance has huge deductibles of $250,000 to $1 million. Some of the red flags, if there's difficulty renewing that insurance. So again, that's a question that your realtor should be asking because most homeowners are not going to be asking that questions. Rapidly increasing premiums. Like, tell me what the premiums have been from year one to where we are now. Again, most homeowners are not going to be doing that. A seasoned, a well-experienced realtor is going to be asking those incomplete or unclear coverage. So again, what kind of insurance coverage do they have? And why this matters is that if the building has any kind of water damage, if it has poor claims history, if it has a high risk of construction, it can become very, very expensive and at times even impossible to insure the property, right? And keep in mind, folks, is that typically that insurance can happen and is looked at after you're removing the subjects and they've been removed, and now the lender is asking that as a solicitor condition. So remember, like what we've talked about last time, Alistair, I think it was last week or the week before. Sometimes the lenders are not asking for any strata documents. They're making it a solicitor condition.
Right. Yeah.
Now that you, the homeowner, has gone through your financing, it wasn't a condition to get your financing through the broker in the time that you needed to remove your condition of finance. They made that a solicitor condition. And now all of a sudden, this is unraveling at the solicitor's office. You now have removed your condition to finance. You are now in a firm and binding sale. And now you have issues within the strata documents, again, which should have all been caught by your realtor prior to even writing the offer or during the time of writing the offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Mike drop there.
that is, man. I cannot say it enough. They need to be reviewed. They should be reviewed, and yes, by your realtor.
All right, we're almost there. I got a couple more that I want to go through. Now, the other issue that we're going to have, or that you may have when you're purchasing in a condo, and we're not seeing that much of this in today's market because there's just purely not a lot of condo sales, is the development that you're purchasing in. How much of it is it rental properties? How much of it is investor? Like, what is the investor ratio? What is the rental ratio to the owner occupied ratio? Because again, statistically in the past, a lot of developments prior to even the foreign buyers ban, a lot of the development, they were getting purchased by investors, which again, the investors wouldn't be living in it. They would be renting it out. So again, some of those red flags and again, these are the questions that you ask. What is the percentage of these units that are being rented? And if it's 60% and higher, that could be a red flag for you as well as the lender. Like investor heavy ownership. Again, if it's above 60%, and again, these units are being owned by investors. Again, these investors are not living in it, they're renting it out. Airbnb, again, this is not necessarily a huge issue right now in Vancouver because of the short-term rental laws that have come in. But again, if there's a lot of Airbnb style rental incomes, this again can be a concern for you as well as for the lender. And the reason why this matters is that when it's investor heavy, the less stable it can be, the less stable the development can be, the more reactive to the market shifts, and it's harder to manage because again, the type of owner that basically has the type of owner that's within that property. So again, what can happen is that there's fewer lender options, there can be higher rates and larger down payments. So again, understanding when you're purchasing in a stratified building is how much rental or investor, what is the ratio? And if it's 60% or higher, that could possibly be a red flag for the lender. That could possibly be a red flag for you, the borrower.
Just another thing that's noted on the Form B for any realtors out there, for everybody out there. That's just another number that's documented on the Form B. Just have to take a look.
Right. Poor strata management.
Yeah.
Again, that's a big one. A
Yeah.
lot of lenders don't like, well, it's not that they don't like self-managed property, but they're a little bit more cautious of self-managed properties, right?
Yes.
So poor
Yeah.
strata management, poor meeting minutes. Again, as a lender, it's a red flag because it tells that the development is disorganized, or they have vague minutes. And it's like, okay, well, what exactly really is going on in here? There could be repeated unresolved complaints because it's not professionally managed. There could be conflict between owners and council. There could be a lack of transparency. So when it's not being done by a third party and it's self-managed, typically, again, most self-managed um, stratas, when you take a look at their minutes, a lot of times it's not very thorough. It's a little bit Mickey Mouse, and I'm not saying that all self-managed stratas are like that, but I'm going to say a large majority are.
Yeah.
You were going to jump in there on something.
No, I was just going to agree with that. That you have to be very, very careful with self-managed stratas because that's where also those things get hidden. Because friendships are made, right? And then Bob will be selling, and he'll be like, "Okay, Bob, don't put in the minutes that, or like Frank, don't put in the minutes that something's happened or whatever." Right? Like it's the not to say, and it's again not to say that they're all like that. It's just again you have to make sure that you're vetting the properties properly, and that means going through the minutes.
Yeah, yeah. And again,
And if they're messy, pardon me, and if they're messy, then it's something that's a red flag that you throw to your clients and say, we may
and
want to look.
to your point, there could be delayed repairs.
Yeah,
There could be minutes that are very vague, like the meeting minutes.
yeah,
The financials can be in a little bit of a disarray.
yeah,
We recently worked on a self-managed property, and it was like, what do you mean you don't have minutes? Well, what do you mean your financials are on this Excel spreadsheet with very little detail on here?
yeah.
What do you mean that like you don't have actually a council because you're in transition, right?
Right.
It's just it's again being not having a properly managing the strata is an issue, and especially when it's self-managed, that can be a big issue and a huge red flag for you as a buyer as well as a lender. Number seven, older buildings without proper planning. Again, any building that's 20 to 30 years old that doesn't have a depreciation report. Now, I know here within the province of BC that now has changed because Allister, maybe you can explain the depreciation report and the rules and guidelines on that with stratified.
Well, yeah, that law came in. Shoot, and we talked about it on the pod. So my bad for blanking. It's been 5 years now, I believe. 5 years since we've had it. Where we're 26. So yeah, five or two,
Two.
4 to. What's that?
I believe it's 2 years.
2 years only? Okay, sorry, my bad. So it's 2 years now that we've had it, where where all stratified buildings had to become up to date with with being able to provide depreciation reports. And I think that everybody's on track to have it done by this year. I think that the cutoff was 2026, so
Yeah.
it was this year to have it to have it done. So your depreciation report is just basically a forecast of the repairs that are going to be needed over time. And one of the important things to understand that it doesn't mean that if you see something that needs to be fixed in 2030 that is fixed in stone, that it's going to be repaired in 2030. That's not the case. It's just saying that is now when definitely you're going to have to start making thoughts and planning for that repair to have to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why it's so important to get that depreciation report, go through it, understand it, and then have it explained to you as well.
And here's the thing, to really simplify it, because I don't want some of the realtors and brokers that are listening to this pod is like, oh, it's actually this or it's actually that.
Oh, right.
Here's the simple part of it. Any building that you're going to be buying is now regulated to have a depreciation report,
Yes.
right? That's mandated. So there should be no building that's stratified that will not have a depreciation report. Now, remember, what does a depreciation report tell you? And Alistair has touched on that. It tells you what needs fixing, tells you when it needs to be fixed, and it tells you how much it will be cost. One of the danger things as a homeowner, and again, this is also where you have to be careful when people are now running everything through Chat GPT, is Chat GPT isn't basically your realtor.
Yeah.
Chat GPT isn't the one that's going to tell you, the pros and the cons. this is where you need a human that understands those strata documents, because you run any depreciation report through ChatGPT, probably is going to tell you not to buy the property,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So it's really, really important, folks, that depreciation reports understand that they're not sexy, but they're mandatory, and understand it just outlines, to Alistair's point, what needs to be fixing, when it needs to be fixed, and roughly what it's going to cost. So again, even to Alistair's point, it might say something in 2040 or 2035, whatever that might be, and that may or may not happen. But this is also goes back to the contingency reserve, as far as where is your reserve fund and how is it going to manage. So
Right.
the depreciation report and the reserve fund are very, very relatable, right? And
Yes.
that's again something that your realtor should be basically involved, well, needs to be involved in. Shouldn't, it's not even a should,
Yeah.
has to be involved into it,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
Declining owner engagement. Again, another red flag is when people that are owners in a development and there's not a lot of owner engagement. So again, you have low AGM attendance. You have difficulty forming a strata council, and there's basically the owners are really disengaged from decisions. The reason why this matters is that, again, if you're inactive as a group, right? It's probably a huge indicator that there's not very many smart decisions that are being made, because it's being made by a minority, not the majority. There's probably a very strong likelihood, when there's not a lot of owner engagement, that repairs are going to be delayed, because again, most people don't really want to increase their strata fees for upcoming repairs. Especially if you're at a $200 and now it's going to be a 500. It's a huge jump because they haven't raised it through the years, right? And it's a concern, because where's that financial management when there's not a lot of engagement? So you want to see, and you want to be purchasing in a building where the homeowners are engaged and where there's proactive ownership. Because again, remember, when you're buying in a stratified unit, it's not that just you are buying it as a single homeowner. There's dozens to hundreds that are owning that building with you. So again, if there's not a lot of ownership activity in it, that's usually a good indicator as far as the type of building that it is.
And this is one thing I want to express to people. The average cost of its condo in the Fraser Valley, what did I say? It's 500, well, 489. It's $500,000, right? The average townhome is 772. Why? Right, this is why, again, it's so important to know what you're buying into. Because if you're buying into an inactive strata committee, right, who's not attending meetings, which means that your property is not going to get taken care of, which means that things aren't going to get fixed, which means that things are going to fall apart. And now what you've invested your money in is going to continue to depreciate, not because the market, not because of the market, but because of the people that you, because where you entrusted your investment to go is not being taken care of and is falling apart.
Yeah.
So again, this is why it's so important. Again, I will not jump off of this bicycle. It is so important to know those strata docs inside and out. And as I say to all of my clients, to get on strata council so you can always be a part and know and understand what's going on. Sorry, go on, Geoff.
And I want to kind of end it with this one. And there's many more. And this is where we go back to making sure that you're working with the right realtor, right? This is when you have to make sure that your realtor represents the property that you are purchasing. Their responsibility is to make sure that you're protected when you are purchasing something, by reviewing strata documents, by reviewing the contingency, by reviewing like unusual bylaws or restrictions. Like here are some of the red flags when you take a look at that. Is what are the rental bans, right?
Yeah.
What is the age restriction, if it's applicable? What are the unique kind of property types? Again, up in Whistler, you have fractional ownership, right?
Yeah.
You have hotel style kind of ownership. And again, why this matters for you, the homeowner, is because what is that going to do for your resale? What is that going to do to the buyer pool when you want to get rid of that property? And what is it going to do with that marketability, right? So again, where I was starting off on this, it's folks, like, you have to make sure that when you are buying strata properties, that you are making sure that you are going through the strata documents, right? Not only that your realtor needs to be doing that, but you have to be doing that. You have to be asking those questions. You have to be doing your due diligence. And yes, your realtor needs to do it. But again, what you need to look for, if you have a pen, you want to take a look at your reserve fund, right? Number one, you want to take a look for any active lawsuits or legal disputes.
Yep.
You want to see if there's any insurance issues, right? You want to know the ratio as far as the rental ratio in the strata property that you're buying. Is it 60% or higher? That could be a flag for you. You want to know how that strata is being managed, right? You want to take a look at the strata documents and make sure that they are done well and they're not done like haphazardly or vaguely or not really clear and concise. You want to take a look at the building, like how old is it? You know, what does the depreciation report say? And again, don't be running your depreciation report through ChatGPT. And if you do, make sure that you're asking the right questions, right? You want to know how involved the existing owners are within the strata. How involved are they within the property? And again, you want to know if there's any weird bylaws or restrictions. So that is just a start. As
Also,
far as
special
making
levy,
it good.
Jeff. Don't forget about special levies. You want
And
to know if
special
there's any
levies,
upcoming special
yeah,
levies?
that one is probably number one. What are your special levies?
Yeah.
What are your levies? What are your past levies? What are your future levies? And what do they look like? Right? So again, understand the red flags. Understand how that can impact you as a homeowner. Understand that how that can impact you when it comes down to financing, and understand that you as a buyer need to know this. Yes, you can pass that buck onto your realtor. Yes, you can pass that on to the lenders, but at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility in what you buy. And again, if you have the right power team around you, you're not even going to have a question. You're going to be taken care of.
Exactly. And so just for everybody out there as well, for realtors that are listening, for people that are listening and they just don't know, they don't know how to read strata documents or don't really want to read them, you can also, there's places that will do it for you. There's Condo Clears services, there's stratareports.ca, there's Eli Report. These are places that if you don't want to spend the time sitting and reading, and I get it, the reading strata documents sucks. I hate it. It's awful, but I do it. But if you don't want to take the time to do it, those are three places that you can go. It costs you something, but again, it is way better to do that than to do nothing.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, like even when you're talking about this, it's like, well, I don't want to spend the money. Guys, this is the biggest investment of your life. It's like you not wanting to do a home inspection
Yeah.
because you're going to save or you want to spend 700 and
Yeah.
700 grand, but you want to save $500 for your home inspection, or you want to save, an X amount of dollars for someone, a professional actually, to review your strata documents, right? Outside of a realtor,
And so
which is the professional as well.
well, and that's it. And so to that point too, for the realtors that say they don't want to spend the money, I just say, come on, man. It's a cost of doing business. This is our job, right? Everybody has expenses, right? This is a cost of us doing business. So if you don't want to read them, then that's your next choice as a service for your clients is to do that.
And again, not to hammer on realtors,
No.
but here's the thing: your realtor is the professional. But I also want you to remind yourselves that there's 25,000 professional realtors in the greater Vancouver area. And the average professional realtor last year sold one house.
Yeah.
So is that the professional that you want to be represented by reviewing the strata documents on the biggest financial decision of your life?
Yeah.
Think about it.
That's true. I think it's a two-way street. I'm a personal believer that both should read. And like I said, if you don't wanna read, then go to Condo Clear Services, stratareports.ca or Eli Report. Jeff and I do not get any money off of saying those people's names. I literally just Googled and I knew of the two. stratareports.ca I've never used. But just read docs. So that's it. Well, man, that's a pretty decent episode, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah,
That was a lot.
lots of information there.
Hell yeah, man. Strata, how to understand the Strata documents and what we had, and the PDS and all that sort of good stuff. That's what we've learned today. Don't lie on your PDS. Read through the Strata, understand what you're getting in. Make sure that if you are getting into a Strata property, do your best to get onto the Strata, to the Strata Council. It may seem like a pain in the you-know-what. And normally, just so you know, Strata Councils are a pain in the you-know-what. But by that same token, it's good to be in the know on what's going on your property, because it allows you to have a voice and a say in what's going on within your property. So, all important stuff. Well, people, thank you all so much for listening today. It is a beautiful day. The overcast is now going away. The sun is cracking through. Get through and enjoy your Thursday, enjoy your Friday, enjoy the weekend, plus 27 on Sunday. Geoff and I will be back, as always, with you guys next week. Woo! But most importantly, stay informed, stay empowered, and Geoff,
Stay tuned.
that's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.